Hello everyone, I'm Chris and I welcome you back to Muda, the YouTube channel about waste. In my previous video, I talked about two forms of Muda or waste that are related with movement. Motion, such as lifting, bending, reaching, and typing, and transportation, which is today's subject, related with movement between processes and locations. Now recall that waste is any activity that does not add value to the customer, and today we'll see why transportation is considered waste. Consider this: shipping a vehicle from the assembly plant to the dealership does not make it faster, more efficient, or does not bring quality to the vehicle. However, it's a step required and you must pay for such process. For example, going to the grocery stores does not make your food taste any better. However, it's an activity that you must perform in order to refill your kitchen. Now, when transportation cannot be avoided, you should target to minimize the amount of transportation that you do. There are multiple grocery stores in your city. However, you choose to go to the ones closest to you. Why? Because you want to limit the amount of time that you spend on the vehicle and in traffic. Similarly, when you go to the grocery store, you don't go every time you need a product. You perhaps wait until the weekend and replenish what is needed for the following week. Why? Again, because you want to limit the amount of time that you're spending on the vehicle and in traffic. You want to limit your transportation. Now let's take a look at airlines or carriers. They have to travel the same amount of distance regardless if they carry only one person or package or multiple. So they target to maximize their load and minimize the amount of potential space that goes wasted. Similarly to the subjects above, let's consider location. If you're in a business where you rely on suppliers for you to get all components and delivered to the market, then ideally you want to be in a location where you have your suppliers near you. Why? Because again, you want to limit the transportation in between steps. You have raw material that goes into a tier 2 or a tier 1 supplier. They produce a product or a component, they may do a pre-assembly and they submit it to you or delivered to you. You then get those pre-assemblies and assemble them to the final product. That final product goes into warehouses or distribution centers, and if you're not in an online business, goes into retail or a dealership to then finally be sold to the customer. So as you can see, there are multiple steps, and if you limit the amount of transportation in between, then you can provide your components at a faster lead time. In conjunction with location, in order to minimize transportation, you also have to have a controlled batch size and a frequency which is set by the demand of market. Now let's take a look at this example. There is a neighborhood of 50 houses and they all decide to go to the same store, grocery A, but they all go at different times of the day and at different days of the week. Now imagine that the store A decides to deliver you the produce for a small fee. Now after all, they have already learned your consumption habits and the frequencies and know when to deliver the food to your doorstep, or simply you can just order online. So now instead of having 50 vehicles going to one location, store A, you now have 1 or 2 vehicles coming out of store A into those 50 houses. So this is a benefit for both parties. You as a customer don't have to go to the grocery store and you can utilize that time for something else. And as a grocery store, you can reduce your expenses because you don't need equipment such as cashiers, excess illumination, and grocery carts. And you can also reduce your overall overhead costs. You don't need as much customer service as you did before. And you only need a vehicle or 2 vehicles in order to cover certain areas. So as you can see, this operation is a prime business that offers more value to the customer. But wait, don't we already have companies doing this? For example, we have Amazon and Walmart that they offer to deliver produce to your doorstep for a small fee, and you don't have to do anything but order online. And there are many other companies that are moving towards this form of operation. You see, it brings value to them and it also brings value to the customers. So consider this when you think about transportation. Similarly, you have another operation, milk runs, where a contractor picks up product from different companies or suppliers that is along a common route. So you also save in transportation. So what then can cause a lack of control in transportation? Well, the first one is an obvious one, which is an excess amount of consumption in fuel, time, and personnel. And subsequently, your lead time also increases, and not just an increase, but also an inconsistency of it, because the more variables that you introduce into your equation, it's harder to you to control all of those variables. So there are multiple effects that can be caused by lack of control of transportation. So what are ways then to reduce this form of Muda? Well, you want ideally to have your processes as close as possible together. You also want to control your batch size based on the market demand. You don't want to be going at a faster rate and having overproduction, and you also don't want to be lagging your demand and having to increase your frequencies of transportation. Improve your layout inside and outside of the company. Reduce the amount of storage centers within your system. One tool can be using consolidation centers. Reduce the complexity of material handling and also optimize your routes if you are in the delivery industry. You don't want to buy a hatchback to move logs, and you don't want to buy a semi to move only a couple of pounds of food. With all this said, I invite you again to take a look at your processes and aim to reduce Muda, waste, and specifically in this case, transportation. Utilize your downtime to be productive and bring up suggestions and ways to be more efficient within your business or wherever you work, or simply in your lifestyle. Now, thank you again for watching this video. I invite you to subscribe to this channel in order to stay tuned for future videos. And until next time, stay simply lean.